to Magick ASMR. This episode will air on the 11th of March 2022, which means that it will be exactly 1 year since I posted my very first video on YouTube. Thank you all so very much for your support. I never imagined getting such positive feedback from my videos. I was an ASMR fan for maybe 5 or 6 years before I decided to become an ASMR artist. I still play ASMR videos at night because they help me sleep. Because this is an anniversary episode, I decided to include an extra story in the mix, so we will have 4 stories instead of 3. If you're new here, please like and subscribe, it really does help a lot. And without further ado, let's begin. The first story. I used to work at my ex-father-in-law's office, which was a large 2-story historical building a little over 100 years old. I worked there on and off for about 15 years. During that time, my coworkers and I witnessed numerous strange events that still baffle me to this day, ranging from footsteps to items being flung onto the ground. Often, I would take a late lunch so I could stay at the office while the others left first. One day, I heard the microwave door open in the kitchen, which was adjacent to the waiting room. This was a newer stainless steel microwave with a handle, so you have to pull it to open it. I got up and shut it and sat back down at my desk. About 10 minutes later, the microwave door opened again. I got up, closed it, and sat back down. This happened 3 different times within the lunch hour. I didn't feel afraid, and honestly, I didn't really think much of it. My strangest encounter was the day my ex-sister-in-law and her 2 kids were visiting. I was talking to them in the waiting room, and they were all sitting down. Like I said, the waiting room sits right next to the opened kitchen door. Suddenly, the kitchen light came on, and at the exact same time, 2 paintings in the waiting room fell to the ground. We were all pretty stunned, but not really afraid. We also had this very old school timestamp machine. My coworkers and I lost the count of times it fell to the ground, even though it was always hugging the wall near the outlet and not even close to the edge of the counter. We would often hear a crash, and there it would be on the floor. At one point, the timestamp machine was in my coworker's office, sitting behind her on a table, and it would fall to the ground while she was sitting at her desk. She finally moved it to the kitchen area, and it continued crashing to the ground periodically when no one was occupying the room. Sometimes, when we arrived at work in the morning, it would be on the floor. It was very weird, but we just kind of joked that our resident ghost was just up to its tricks. The only time I felt truly unsettled was when I was hanging out in my ex-father-in-law's office after hours, trying to fix his computer. It was winter, so it was dark outside, and I was the only person in the office, so it was very quiet. I could hear footsteps upstairs and the doors opening and shutting in just a regular fashion, no slamming. At one point, it sounded like a box was being dragged around, and that was when I decided to woman up and go upstairs to see if I could find the source. I checked all the rooms, and there wasn't a soul in there. We often heard footsteps and doors shutting, but this time it freaked me out so much that I refused to stay there alone if it was dark outside. My ex-husband hadn't experienced anything strange and usually just brushed off our stories. He finally became a believer one evening when he was working in his office after hours. There was a large mirror that sat his office. He said while he was sitting at his desk, which faced the fireplace and the mantel, the mirror came crashing to the floor and shattered, making a pretty big mess. I saw the mirror the next day and it was completely busted. A few years after divorce, my ex-husband passed away from an acute illness at the age of 38. About a year after his death, I visited the office to catch up with my old co-workers and ex-brother-in-law who was there. I asked the old co-workers if the ghost was still up to his tricks and they laughed and said yes. It's just so strange, and to this day I can't explain it. I have never really believed in spirits. I'm not completely ruling them out though, since I think there are definitely things out there beyond our understanding. Or maybe it will be explained with science that hasn't been discovered yet. I even wondered for a while if it had something to do with the parallel universe. Who knows? The second story. It's been well over a year since I last saw a gnome. I have epilepsy, so I'm never sure if it's just my brain fabricating things, but I've never hallucinated due to seizures that I know of. That all being said, I once went to a psychic who did Akashic record readings. She told me that I was closely connected to earth spirits. I'd made no mention to her about seeing gnomes because, well, that makes it sound absolutely bonkers. For a short period of time, my ex and I lived in his late grandfather's house. The property was teeming with Japanese maples and native plants. He also kept an orchid room. One day, while taking a shower, I heard the bathroom door move and saw a little troubly dressed old man, about 1.5 feet tall, run through the bathroom and climb out the open window. It scared the heck out of me. I let out a yelp. My ex came running in, and so as not to be taken for even more medical testing that I've already been through, when he asked what happened, I told him I had slipped. Another thing I once saw may have been a troll. I'm unsure. I have no idea what it was. Maybe you all could enlighten me. I'd been doing a lot of meditating, 3 hours or so, and I headed into my bedroom to change for the gym. I opened my closet and there was a 3.5 or 4 feet naked, wrinkly elf/troll type thing. I gasped and backed up and he disappeared. Since both the sightings mentioned here, I have had more than one CT scan, MRIs, etc. My seizures were a result of head trauma that happened well after what I'll refer to as the troll incident. There are other times I have seen them, as well as one childhood encounter with my late grandma and a few encounters with my grandfather who died when I was 4. Again, my brain has been scanned a lot in multiple ways and nothing has been found other than some white spots from chronic migraine, and those popped up super recently. Have been evaluated by a neuropsychologist as well. The third story. The last 2 days have gotten crazy. For the past 2 years, there's been a tapping sound coming from my bedroom window. It started one Halloween night. I know, this sounds like a bad movie. And about a few times a month, sometimes more often, something taps on my window. There's nothing around to hit the window, and it sounds exactly like a finger tapping the glass. Me and my siblings are used to it. A few days ago, my brother started complaining that something was communicating to him from outside the den's window. Keep in mind, we live in an apartment complex, so we always have the blinds closed. He says that whatever it was just kept saying hello to him in a robotic, high-pitched voice. The rest of our family just shrugged it off. The day after, we go outside and there are small tracks leading up to all of our windows. I don't know what animal could have made those tracks because I think it's bipedal. Later that day, I was in my bedroom lying on my bed that's next to my window with the blinds closed, and I jumped out of my skin. Someone's loudly banging against the glass, but I ignore it. I just assume siblings sneaking up on me. I then find out that they were both together at the exact same moment in the house when it happened. They hadn't been out for hours. The next night, my brother complained about the voice outside his window again, and we told him to ignore it. If it is something supernatural, we don't want to mess with it. Yesterday, while we were all preparing for dinner, my entire family and I heard the creature screaming outside. I was too shocked to move to grab my phone and record. It kept yelling, "Hello, come out," exactly how my brother had described. It was so loud we could hear it clearly from the kitchen and dining room. We didn't want to look outside. This morning more snow had fallen, but fresh prints were there. I was able to take pictures before they melted. I don't know what to make of any of this, but it's impossible for this to be a prank because of the lack of human prints in the snow. I'm going to keep my phone on me tonight so that I can record the creature talking if it comes by again. I'm pretty sure it will. Now, I have read a lot of stories in my life. I gotta admit, when I first read this one, it gave me the creeps. And I remember reading it before bedtime. Like, even if this isn't supernatural and this is some sort of a prank, or like, I don't know, a creep outside your window, it's still pretty messed up. But let's go on. The fourth story. About 8 years ago, when I was 13, I was up until 3 a.m. playing Xbox Online, as you do. I remember feeling peckish and wanting some late night cereal, so I finished my game and went to grab some munch. I turned on the hall light and checked on my little brother, who was 9 at the time, and my little sister, who was 5 at the time. Being the oldest sibling was just something I do. They were both fast asleep. As I got to the top of the staircase, I started to hear a little girl talking to herself. It completely creeped me out, but I thought maybe it was my sister slip-talking. But then it was more and more clear, and I can really hear the sound of this girl's voice, and it was not my sister. I heard the voice coming from downstairs, and I got this horrible, sickening feeling inside of my stomach. I got on my knees on top of the staircase and put my head down the stairs to hear the voice clearer, which then I figured the voice was coming from the kitchen. Maybe she sensed I was there after that, because when I tried to hear her clearer, she laughed, and then I heard the footsteps run off. I was so scared, and I ran into my mom and dad's room telling them what happened, to which they both just told me to go back to bed. Needless to say, I did not get that bowl of cereal or sleep much that night. It was only a few weeks ago, now that I am 21, that my mom told me about the little girl who lives in our house. She says she feels her presence every now and then, mainly at the bottom of the stairs, which makes sense. It's our 2 dogs now, and our old dog used to stare up the staircase at nothing and sometimes bark like crazy. To this day, when I watch TV, I sometimes feel her looking at me from the stairs, although I haven't heard anything quite like I did when I was younger. That's all I got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say thank you to the people who actually let me feature their stories here. A big thanks from me, and I wish you a very good day or night, and I'll see you in my next one.